Well, I just thought I'd make a little fun video. I was listening to some of them podcasts, Eric Bischoff and them that do their podcasts now. It makes you kind of miss, the old stuff. I mean, not just cause they, of course it helped, the funny stuff. And I mean, it helped keep you sitting and stuff. But also you had the matches, and you had people that you from the '80s were still wrestling in the '90s and stuff. But by the 2000s, all of them pretty well went out. You know, I mean, some tried to stick around, have a few more matches, but I was just listening to Eric Bischoff talk about, TNA and what was why they were given Monday nights and what kind of was the deal, and I'm just kind of roughly give my view of it. I mean, it's the same mistake that Eric Bischoff made when he had WCW. It looks eerily similar, except for the fact that you didn't have all the big stars. And now, while you can make a case for Hogan being a bad guy and it freshening up some things, really didn't change a whole lot. I mean, he's still going around Sam Brother, and I mean, the only thing he wasn't doing was, talking about Hulkamaniacs. But I mean, otherwise, he pretty well did the same stuff. Still doing the leg drops. Still doing all the shit he always did. He didn't change his move set a whole lot. He might have got a little heelish and did a little something every now and again in a match. But Hulk Hogan match is the same thing as a Ric Flair match. You just about know what you're going to get. Most wrestlers don't change or don't adapt very well. So when you look at the reason for WCW's success, and I've listened to a bunch of stuff and gathered up some stuff, and I have my own, and I have to admit, I didn't watch a lot of the old WCW stuff. The one night that I did stay up late was because there's supposed to be this big old cage match. And at the time in 98, they went 3 hours. So I was going to have to stay up. It didn't come on till 1 o'clock in the morning. Had it come on right after, it went off, Fire could have got, maybe got it in before, my grandmother got up. But why you doing? And I was excited about this cage match thing. I don't know, they advertised it or somehow I found out back then. I don't remember if it was just an advertisement on TV that I ran across or something. Somehow they wasn't WWF doing it. It was I had pretty much saw it on an ad or something on a different channel or flipped through there on TNT and saw that they were going to have this big steel cage match or something. So, that's really the only time. And then the only other time I was aware of anything big was when my dad would speak up and say, my buddy recorded this WCW pay-per-view called Starrcade 97, and I watched it. Or, the time the Ultimate Warrior came out there, there comes the Warrior's back, you remember him? And I was like, yeah, and I told my dad, I said that, at the time, and I was just a teenager then. But I said hey, it probably won't last, that long or something along those lines. Or, because it seemed like every time, even then, before the internet really got, the booming, it seemed like, the Warriors thing was just going to be short and sweet. Because you kind of figured him out after a while. But no, I miss those days, with the Stone Colds and all the good ones. And, but TNA's problem had always been that they got what was left of the cast-offs that Vince already tried to make stars out of. And Kurt Angle, for one thing, the reason he got to go to TNA, not so certain how, since he had all them problems. But somebody must have. Well, and I don't know about TNA, and even then in WWE, they had done a drug test policy or whatever, but. Kurt Angle had a lot of rough stuff too that he put himself through and everything. So I'm not exactly sure how he got cleared to wrestle for what seemed to be a long time. It was like 10 years. But no, I just listened to them talk about the Monday night thing. I would have to say that TNA, if it wasn't for Jeff Jarrett and finding this Dixie Carter, he was looking around trying to figure out how was I going to support TNA. Didn't even have anything to do with wrestling. It's total nonstop action. Which is funny, is about the only company that doesn't have a W somewhere in it. But they tried to add the NWA as a organization, which it's been struggling for over 20 or 30 years itself, or longer. It's just barely up and surviving, but only. Practically what they did the same thing that Bischoff did. And I agree with WCW doing it for the short term, but when they tried to go, my thing is they tried to go overboard and they kept the old ones around too long. You can make an argument there for the first year or two, around 96 to 98, but around 99 and 2000, you should have let those guys go. You should have done something. Ted Turner, of all the people, and I know he liked wrestling, but, he should have been in the back. He should have said, hey, I got some stake in this. Y'all use my money, my checkbook. This guy should have had some hands-on stuff with it or something. The one thing that killed WCW for sure, and the main thing was this merger that Ted Turner let happen with AOL and Time Warner. When for some reason or another, and he let that happen, that's really what WCW was already losing by that point anyway. But that put their nail in the coffin. But because when I look back, I think about what might have been or what could have been. Would we, if we still had the old wrestling around, the old organization around, would we be better off or worse? And seeing what TNA brought to the table, had TNA stuck to like the Samoa Joes and the AJ Styleses and the James Storms and the Bobby Roodes, the big stars that they could make that wasn't made by WWE or anybody else really. The ones that they could, put on TV that you could introduce to an audience, get them used to them, give them some characters, do some music, you know. Yeah, it's okay. Like I said, it's okay if you bring in a couple of established people because obviously you need a couple of them. But I mean, it's like I was telling my wife. It's like AEW is now. It's like a kid in a candy store. That every time Vince releases one of these stars that's either washed up, has been, just ain't, they're not capable of going in there and doing a match every week or every night. And, they might, can do a spare one at that. And you're lucky for what you're seeing out of CM Punk. What is that? Oh, must be a kid. But no, I just thought I'd make a fun video, kind of talk about some old stuff. But yeah, it does kind of make you wish that WCW is still around or some form of it. I've listened to what Vince and them at WWE at the time WWF wanted to do with it, and they wanted to run it if it had succeeded expectations, which they still went about it the wrong way. They didn't have, they had the WCW guys from the past. Not the biggest ones, but they had some like Jericho, Big Show, and some of them that had been on the other side previously. But my thing is, if you don't really take these guys and not totally take them off TV, but really revamp WCW. Vince could have done it. Vince had the company. He had the stable, funds and all that. He could have got everything. I mean, WWF run like a smooth operation compared to what most companies today are run like. I don't know about AEW, but a lot of the companies on the independent side doesn't run as smoothly a lot of times. But, you could take, you could have took WCW if you'd been that committed to it. If Vince McMahon really wanted it to succeed, which I'm sure he did in some respects, but if he really thought about it long and hard, nobody in their right mind, except for bringing in Dusty Rhodes, and you could have said, well, he brought in Ric Flair at one point. Yeah, but you didn't overexpose them. You didn't have Monday Night Raw and all them other things that you were. I mean, Monday Night Raw just started, and Ric Flair was like on the first 3 episodes before he left. So if you took, when Dusty Rhodes was there was no Monday Night Raw. There was no, and there still wasn't no SmackDown. It's the early 90s, 93. So you get out here and you look at the landscape and look how everything is put together. TNA, for all that it did, for wrestling and give some other people a place to work, which is, like I said, that's really what you have to do these days, is not really compete with each other, but give another option, give another place to go work. As WWE knows, they ain't the only game in town, and they now understand that these people can go work on independence and get just about as much, if not a little bit more, I hear the independent circuit pays pretty well. I don't know that from my own personal self, but that's what I hear anyway. So, I mean, if you can go out there and do that, when WWE, and I mean, everybody's like, well, I'd like to work WrestleMania, or I'd like to do one of these things, or I'd like to do this. Well, I mean, it's just a show. I mean, you're like a spoke on the wheel. You might get there, and you might work a Royal Rumble, you might work a WrestleMania, and you might be there long enough to do that, or you may not. So, like nowadays, I catch myself not watching today's product at all, hardly. And then when I do, I hear stupid names like Doudrop, and I make fun of it. And I just get probably cushion. Yeah, probably the cushion got smudged a little bit. But yeah, I make fun of them. Man. There's names that you would not want to call these wrestlers. Like Doudrop, I call them everything in the book. I just randomly, everything you can think of. They're just silliest stuff you ever heard of. And these people, they don't have a chance in the world to get anywhere in this day and age with what they're presented with. I mean, if they got AEW together and probably one more independent organization had got together, if they really got together and put a plan in place and had a long-term plan of what their idea of matches were going to be and what they were hoping to, because I mean, you don't have that many fans now. You have about less than 2 million people. Used to on Monday nights, you'd have somewhere between 7 to 10 million people watching, all throughout the world. But most of the fans would come back if a fella just cuts out all the stuff that Vince currently does. And it's not to bring back the Attitude Era. That's not what needs to happen. What really needs to happen is, they need to get away from the silly characters, the silly stuff that Vince, like that New Day thing. It's ran its course, and he's not as relying on it as he was, but it's still there, and it's, there's pieces of it and it's still around. But if they got to where, Vince took everything seriously and they fixed up NXT and they didn't have John Laurinaitis and old Brother Love, running the show, and they let Triple H do what he knows he could do with it and actually give him control, which he's probably finding out. I'd say right about now, I'd say Triple H is regretting marrying into the Vince McMahon empire, because this is the lowest I've seen Triple H. Not just his heart attack or whatever he had, but just the, just seeing what they've already done in NXT and what's going on down there. It's not nothing like what Triple H had envisioned. And it's just now it looks just like Cornette said, it looks like somebody just took some random paint, and just splashed it on top of the yellow logo that was there. They just kind of it's kind of like a kid playing with finger paints or something, getting their hands all kind of different colors, and then just putting their hands on there, on like paper or something. But it's just, And Vince, no, I don't think. Like I said, I don't think TNA. I don't think anybody could have ever really got close to beating Vince McMahon. But I'm saying if you'd had enough talent, young talent, not these old geezers, but the young talent. If you had enough of that, you could possibly have made a case for TNA to still be on a major network and possibly might have even gotten close enough to where WWE acknowledged them on a regular or semi-regular basis and competed with them. I don't know that you shut them down. WWE be hard to shut down, but I just I don't know. I got to sit here thinking, man, you don't get an opportunity like this every day. And, AEW is doing the same mistakes that TNA's done, that WCW's done, and they all have. I mean, the only thing AEW is not going to do is bring Hulk Hogan in. I mean, I remember hearing about that. They said, no Hulk Hogan. Yet they'll bring Eric Bischoff on there. Yet they'll bring everybody else just about on there. But yet Hulk Hogan, oh no. Of course, he's been in the doghouse so many times with Vince McMahon. They forgive him every time. So if he was to somehow wind up on AEW TV, the WWE would probably take him back. They always do, but at this point he can't do as much. I don't know what he could offer. I mean, what he offered TNA, it was more than I thought. He actually tried to get in there and do a few matches, even at around 60 years old or whatever he was then. And it's just, it's pathetic that, that they have to, get him out there and do something like that when they know he's not capable. And he does it because he's wanting to try to do all he can, trying to get a company over, which is why every time when the door opened, he's always tried. He's tried WCW, he's tried TNA, he's tried, but it's like Vince knows, he can't do without Hulk Hogan, and Hulk Hogan knows he can't do without Vince McMahon. Either way you go, because every time they keep coming up with something, and they keep trying. He messes up, he makes a mistake, he says something wrong, or he does something wrong. The only thing that I told my wife this, which I don't know if a lot of people pay much attention to Hogan, but as a time when he thought about, doing something that wasn't so cool, and if he had done that, I'll assure you right now, this was about 8 or 9 years ago, but I was shocked when I seen it. It was on YouTube, and I forget what the title of the video was, but it was like 10 wrestlers had done some stupid stuff or something, or most shocking things that, or whatever it was, One of the things was Hogan, thinking about killing himself or shooting himself with a gun or something. I was like, Lord have mercy. Could you imagine all that Hulkamania stuff? And here they give Chris Benoit all this hell about, what he did. And now that's one thing. I mean, Chris Benoit, at least he didn't have as big of a following and all that, but damn, Hulk Hogan, man, that would really hurt. It's one thing to lose Chris Benoit's, stuff on TV and not really be able to. I can understand not showing that, but imagine if the same treatment had been applied if Hogan did this thing that he at one time wanted to do, but didn't do it, come to his senses. But if you had done it, man, you'd lost out on a lot of stuff. I mean, that guy has done so much for the wrestling business, drawed so much money. He's made millions and millions and millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars at least. And he's like almost the biggest name that you could come up with. And man, talking about something that really would have stunk. That right there would have just about done the whole wrestling world in, because I mean, it's one thing, like I said, for some of these mid carders and some of these, people like Chris Benoit to do it, but man, Hulk Hogan, man, that's another league right there. But no, I don't think at any time TNA could have ever gotten to the heights. I mean, they could, like I said, if they'd have had enough, if they'd have had them a thing like WWE does now, NXT, something similar to that, and they were making stars. They'd had a thing there at one time called Gut Check, I remember. And it's like this little deal where it's kind of like, they get a couple local yokels, get out there and they have a match, and they decide based on that match or whatever. They do it like once a year or something, but nobody really got nothing out of that. It's like it tough enough. It wasn't enough. It was an idea, and a lot of the things TNA would steal from WWE, and then WWE might steal something from them occasionally, but most of the time I've seen more TNA stealing from WWE. Ideas like the Money in the Bank, instead of having it be a ladder, a full blown ladder match and just getting one thing, up to 4 people gets a case, and then they don't know what's in it or claims they don't know, which I don't know how true that is. Because wrestling is like a soap opera, but they know the outcomes. I know the guys do. I know they don't tell them what number to grab or what the ones. So it's almost not a shock, because I mean, they're going to go with, like, if you get the one that says fired, they're obviously know your contract's up, so they know basically on that whose is up. You just got to be if you're the fan watching, you got to kind of guess. I didn't go with your gut. I used to have to do that. Not as much now, or I don't. It's not because I don't want to. It's just I don't pay much attention to wrestling. That's not as good as it once was. But just about every match or everything that I could come up with just about happens. The way I drew it up back in, it wouldn't have been too good to have bet me on anything. But no, it just, it kind of does make you kind of miss a little bit of the old stuff a little bit, and kind of what might have been in today's, stuff. But like I said, a lot of it's mismanagement, some ideas, like the NWO and all that other stuff that WCW did. It ran too long. It's just Eric Bischoff say what he wants to, and about people not being behind the scenes and not knowing this or not knowing that. Well, we know quite a bit, and I can tell you just, if you cut down on that blowing your money stuff, blowing Ted Turner's billions of dollars on these, almost at the time they were in their 40s or something. These guys that were in their early to mid 40s. If you'd quit blowing your damn money on that shit and focused on people like you had the young Rey Mysterios, then you had Chris Jericho, you had a whole bunch of other names. I can't run through them all right now. You had a good cruiserweight division that was getting over. That's what was helping you keep keep some of the crowd because they liked what they saw from those guys. But you also needed to slow down, as you all know, slow down on the NWO and things like that because you can only run a storyline like that for so long. First big mistake, I can tell you the first big mistake that they made was having that whole NWO Nitro, having that, that big damn pay per view with, you know, they could have left the WCW wrestlers' music in there, but they chose to only play the NWO music all the time. Of course, that gets old. Hearing that wah 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 all the time, and just need to do what order, and all that junk. Every time you turn around, it's just their music's on like played, and some guy, on microphone yelling out stuff. But I mean, see, and people that they should have known not to hire, they knew they should hire some people in there, somebody from pizza place or Vince Russo or somebody like that. They should know not to hire these people. Vince McMahon, I tell you, he was a genius at letting these people go. When he did, and when he got rid of them, he knew exactly what was going to happen. But he didn't want the old wrestling to die, the old WCW, but he couldn't do anything about it because people at Turner didn't want it. They didn't want to give. If Eric had bought it, he'd have been buying a pig in a poke, and he couldn't have saved wrestling. I know he wanted to, but he would have been in much more trouble had he tried to run that thing by himself. He was given a opportunity to have a 2-hour time slot and kind of be a part of the backstage stuff and given a spot. But if he had actually tried to buy WCW and say they would have given him the TV time slot back and been able to work something out like he hoped, that thing would have felt like a shits. I mean, I don't even think it would have had legs on it. I mean, they certainly wouldn't have been no Monday Night Wars. Because, he was talking about redoing the whole thing and trying to have some, not all, but some of the old WCW stars and maybe but not everybody, and it's just not going to work if you can't have all the ones that they want you to have, because then the crowd's just going to go out. I don't see Hulk Hogan, I don't see Scott Hall or whoever their favorite is, and if their favorite's not on there, then they're going to be like, well, they're not, then this is not going to work, unless they can adapt, Which seeing today's wrestling, I don't very well adapt to the new stuff quite as easy. What was new then and what's new now is completely different. I can't, when WWE brings back something like a Legends Night or whatever, it doesn't excite me as much. It doesn't make me stay tuned in because it's like they're on there for 4 or 5 minutes or less, a minute, 2 minutes, whatever it be, and then there's just a new match and somebody's just kind of out there doing what they do on a regular basis. That's why I'm saying I don't know why these legends always get suckered back in, or why they would allow that. Well, they get some money. Well, god dang, you go out there and do an autograph signing and get you some money, or go out there and most of these wrestlers, like I said, if they just do the right thing and put some of that money away, have them a plan, because you never know when your days come. You never know. You never know when that time might just come around that corner. You could be there for 3 or 4 years. You could be there for 2 or 3 years. You don't know. You could be there for 10 years, and then whenever it's time for you to be shipped out, that's what they're doing. I've not seen nowhere near as many people getting canned like I have here in the last 4 years. It's like every year now, or last 5 at least. Every year seems like it's getting worse and worse. I can't watch even AEW. I just can't. And people be like, well, they got CM Punk, they got all these other guys. Yeah, that's the problem. Because people like CM Punk, people like Jericho, they're out of shape. They're not as good as they once were, and they're only going to be there for a little bit of Sting, another one. They're just there to get a couple of casual people to peek at something and say, hey, I mean, you can see a difference in Sting's WCW. You can see a difference in Sting's TNA run. I mean, he was the vocal point for the longest time. Sting is not the same guy anymore. He can go out there and do a match. He's proven he can go out there and do a match, with Darby Allin for a cup of coffee or something, and just tag him in, they do his stick or whatever, and then he went. Of course, he ain't lost a match yet, but even if he has, it don't really mean a whole lot because it's not like he's gonna win a title. I told my wife, I said the only thing that would make sense if they want to put a belt on him is put one on him and Darby, because at least Sting wouldn't have to be in the ring the whole time, and you could tag him in and out and do that, and that'd be okay. He's not going to get hurt, or as long as they don't do no turnbuckle power bombs or any of that shit. They keep that out of the equation. I think Sting would be well enough to do just about most of the other stuff, but them risky moves they don't need to be doing, those that he can't do or can't prepare for, he's not used to, they don't need to be doing them. But that's why his WWE run was so short, even though they didn't treat him nowhere near as good as. And I knew that. And I was, it's one of them times when my dad, if he were here then, he'd said, Derek, or, well, he wouldn't have said it that way, but he'd be saying, something like, well, I told you you'd show up, or just something, I don't know, He wasn't your typical bragger, like as in, beating you up over it, but I just figured Sting would never have shown up. And I knew why he wouldn't. But the thing was, Ultimate Warrior and all that bull happened all around that same time, and he just left TNA. So he just thought, well, what the hell, I've never wrestled for him. Hell, I'm at the tail end of my career. I'll go in there and see what they want me to do, if anything. Why don't give him a chance? They signed him up for 5 or 6 years, whatever it was. 6 years. And all that just to sell some of his merchandise or whatever. And you put him in a couple of games. And he had like 3 or 4 matches, But, I don't know what they expected. I'm surprised Sting got a shot at the WWE title. I'm surprised he got anything, actually. I'm just be honest with you. Stuff he got wasn't really that good, especially the stuff on Monday Night Raw. Nobody's going to look at that shit in the next 10, 20, 30 years and go, oh, this was good shit, I mean, and the matches weren't bad. but I just didn't like. I didn't like a lot of that stuff. I mean, it's one thing, like I said, like I was telling my wife, it's one thing somebody bring in Goldberg or something. You can kind of work with that because you know what you need to do. He needs to kind of be, you know, short but sweet, nothing too long. You know, you can kind of do that stuff once in a while, but otherwise, no. But no, TNA had no chance. Even if they had even if they had the 50 best wrestlers and they were like young Kurt Angles and all those, good ones, and if they had good technicians and all that, you still need to grab the other audience, and you still need to have guys that could talk on the microphone and keep their attention. Because I remember a time when all that stuff was going on, I couldn't even go to the bathroom. It's so good. That's what they need. And that's just what they don't have anymore. And, that audience has left the barn a long time ago. That's just what they don't have and never will again. It's the times and everything has just changed. But, it's that's the way everybody's gonna be from now on. The fans, you can get them curious about CM Punk. Everybody cheering for CM Punk for 7 fucking years. You'd hear it at WWF, events. You'd hear it at all the independent circuit events or whatever. CM Punk, CM Punk, CM Punk. And now they got him. AEW's gotten him, and after a couple of weeks, he's already worn out his welcome. People, I've heard people say, yeah, they've kind of seen it now, and they've kind of figured Punk out. He's just not as fun. I mean, the first night he was out there on AEW, it was kind of remind me of some of the stuff he did with WWE, and everything. But once he basically, wrestled a couple of these no-name guys and a couple of these, because I don't think he's got the same passion for what he used to have. He just kind of he wants to fit in, and he wants to just kind of be a part of the show. People can say, well, he waited a couple of years. He didn't just come in there for. Yeah, but let's just say if he had, I know people probably even then would have probably got tired of him just about as quick because CM Punk's not good on the microphone. CM Punk's not a good, or a great wrestler by any means. He's got a couple of moves, but it's nothing. It's not the best. It's not like Bret Hart or Owen or somebody. He don't even do. He took out the Macho Man elbow drop. Kind of like seeing him do that or something off the top ropes. But and then he comes out one week he's wearing fucking shorts, and next week he's wearing tights, and the next week he's wearing long tights instead of the little regular short ones that you wear. It's like he's dressing up. He's about to, he can't make up his mind what he wants to wear or what his looks gonna be when he goes up there and wrestles. So I don't know. I'm just CM Punk's just kind of wearing down on me already because I just don't see much for him. But I'd say his deal probably ain't but for 2 or 3 years, and at the limited rate that he has to wrestle, which ain't but about once every other week or so, maybe twice in the week since they got a second show or whatever. But it ain't like WWE where they travel 5-6 days in a row and don't get much time off. These people, if they only had to wrestle once a week and you're lucky and you only had, which most of the time most of the wrestlers don't. I mean, There's some that's never heard of that gets on this YouTube show, but that they do. But that Mark Henry and Big Show's on, and that you never see him on any other thing. But no, just probably I go to bed tonight. But I thought, hey, I could make me a little wrestling video or something tonight. But we'll be getting out probably, especially tomorrow, doing our food stamp shopping and whatnot. So hopefully we'll you never know what tomorrow holds. Maybe wildfire's in there or something. Something good could happen tomorrow. We never know. But no, I've had a good day. So it's fairly good. Been on here, like I said, just looking up some stuff. Doing pretty much same old, same old. But I'll check to see. Probably check something. Hold on real quick. Must be something she sent me. God, they sent like. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. But anyway, I'm gonna probably get off here and probably just do some more looking around or something. She probably got sleepy and tired, heard me talking and probably put her to sleep. But anyway, I'll probably get off here. All right.